to expand and explore the mythology of Damballa. And, this season, we actually meet Damballa for the first time in the franchise after 35 years. And I think fans will be extremely surprised and excited and amused by what Damballa actually looks like and what their personality is.
Ever since I was really young, I have always been a die-hard Child's Play fan. These movies scared the living shit out of me, but I loved it. The first movie I'd watched from the franchise was actually Curse of Chucky. I loved and hated this movie because it gave me legitimate nightmares as a kid and honestly made it even hard to close my eyes at night. However, I still loved this movie and watched it multiple more times as a kid, while still have never watched any of the other movies at this point in time. My uncle had gotten me the entire franchise on a DVD box set for my 9th birthday. At this point, he had already shown me Child's Play 1 and Child's Play 2. I was still terrified. However, I still had that morbid curiosity to go through and watch all of the movies that I have still been scared of to that day. After I'd watched through season 1 of the TV show, I went back through all of the films in the franchise and really started listening in on people's thoughts and looking at every interview and behind the scenes tidbit that I could possibly find. At this point, I was quite literally obsessed with everything that this franchise had to offer. I loved the characters, I loved the story, and something else that I really did appreciate about this franchise was the lore that was set up. Don Mancini had never liked this voodoo mythology that director Tom Holland of the first Child's Play had come up with. Don thought it was convoluted, it gave Chucky a weird motivation.
I was on board.
Yeah.
And
you weren't writing thinking I just sold my soul.
No, I didn't. Obviously I cannot be objective about this. Mm-hmm. Naturally, I felt my original concept was better. Ugh. Legions of people disagree. I'm just trying to be generous to the people that came up with that mythology.
Right, no, and it's a lot of fun. I'm definitely not decrying it in any way. But
I'm decrying it. It's stupid.
Well, there you go. But you embraced it.
Ade Due Tempora.
But
yes, we had no choice but to embrace it.
So this aspect of the franchise was one to be desired for. Not just for me, but many other hardcore fans, who all just wanted this part of Chucky's character and of the story to actually be taken seriously. Which brings me to where we are now with this franchise, and what a wild ride it's been so far. It's had highs and pretty major lows. And this isn't the first time this franchise has been on pretty mixed terms with the majority of the fan base. Seed of Chucky being one that almost killed this franchise by turning to full comedy with the over-the-top and sexual jokes and almost cartoonish kills. The very divisive introduction of Chucky and Tiffany's kid, Glenn/Glenda, or nowadays referred to as Gigi. Seed made Don have to rethink the directions that he wanted this franchise to go in, to which he did an amazing job with Curse, pretty much redefining the franchise and still keeping everything tied together. And I would say things stayed on that steady path for a while, until around season 2 of the Chucky series, when it seemed that Don Mancini was wanting to give it more of a campy feel and way less serious. This, once again, causing a major diversity, with half of the fan base loving this tone and direction, and the other half liking the more serious and less comedic tone of the franchise, much how like the first 3 movies had brought. Which now finally brings me to Chucky Season 3. Don Mancini decided that with the direction of taking Chucky to the White House, that this season would also be a great time to expand on the supernatural lore. And by the end of the season, it left myself and many other fans wondering if we actually wanted this type of expansion to the voodoo lore that has been placed since the very beginning. This season, we find ourselves with a cold open to Chucky being in the White House, which to itself is an interesting concept and place to put Chucky. However, we aren't sure as to why Chucky is here or what he wants. And to be honest, I don't think anybody could have thought it was because Chucky was aging. Now, the overall concept of having Chucky aging because of the exorcism that had happened in the previous season is a good idea, conceptually. But it's presented in such a weird and odd way, with Chucky going to this very stereotypical looking doctor who worships the deity of Damballa. Okay, sure. I mean, for God's sakes, Chucky gets a fucking hernia exam. Anyways, we find out this is the reason why he's in the White House, because he needs to provide Damballa with 4 sacrifices from a place of complete evil. Now, it's a little convoluted, but it works to get to where we need to go with the plot. Chucky then provides Damballa with more than 4 kills needed to be able to rid him of the Catholic curse. And I did really like the fact that for the first time in a while, Chucky didn't get exactly what he wanted in the moment that he needed it. Sort of like the older original movies. The struggle of what Chucky is trying to do is there. And I really, really liked that aspect of the season. It felt like there was at least some stakes with Chucky's character and his mortality. And not to mention, this is easily his creepiest design of the doll so far. Now, before we get to what really didn't work about this season, I do want to highlight the positives, because I feel like there was a lot of great things to come out of this season, even if it was surrounded in a bunch of mixed and negative aspects. One of the major positives that I can give this season is the White House setting and the first family. I did really enjoy their characters. I thought they were all really fun. They were all a great time. I could really buy into a lot of the struggles that they were going through. And I thought that the expansion on their characters throughout the season was nice. However, when it comes to other characters such as Jake, Devin, and Lexi, I thought it was pretty evident that it was difficult to keep them relevant to the story this season. To where the only significant thing to come from them was Lexi being able to obviously get them into the White House with becoming close with the first son, Grant.
Your brother passed almost a year ago.
Yeah.
And Jake going into the spirit realm, which happened in the final episode, if that tells you anything about their relevance to this season. While we're on the topic of characters this season, I do want to touch on Tiffany a little bit. And I'm just going to come out the gate 100% honest. I am sick of Tiffany. And I hate to say that, but especially after this season, I'm just sick of what her character brings to the table. Granted, I think her story this season isn't horrible and her dilemma and what she's going through. I really do like that aspect, and I feel like her and Chucky's struggles kind of bind with each other. So I do like that aspect. But her as a character and how really Don Mancini just wants to push her character out there nowadays is just not for me. I don't find a lot of enjoyability from what Tiffany does in this franchise nowadays. And I've had this problem for a while. This isn't a problem that just sprouted from this season. I've had this problem pretty much ever since Tiffany had taken over Jennifer Tilly's body. Because ever since then, the camp has just been cranked up to 11 with her character. And it just doesn't feel like we get any serious moments with her character. Now, granted, she's never been the most serious character, but she's had a little bit of a dark side that feels like it's just all brushed away just so we can have this really over-the-top and goofy and fun storyline with her character. And I just, it's not for me. It's really not for me. The tone that they bring with her character, it's just not for me. Some people like it, some people hate it, and I'm more on the spectrum of hating it. I really don't find anything to enjoy about her character. But now, this brings me to the most mixed aspect of the entire season. The ghosts. Now, they slightly touch on this aspect with Henry reading the Ghosts at 1600 book. However, this whole supernatural aspect that they're trying to shove in this season was easily the most difficult aspect that they probably ever introduced into the franchise, period. Especially since they throw it in sort of out of nowhere into the middle of the season. And like I said before, it had pretty much no build-up. It just is thrown in. And in my opinion, I feel like it makes the entire plot feel confused and rushed with what it's trying to do. As well as the whole spirit realm. And it's treated as such a big deal this season. However, it was never even slightly mentioned at any other point in the franchise. Now, the one major takeaway from this video is I really do enjoy the aspects and the ideas and the concepts. They're all really interesting and probably one of the more interesting things that this franchise has introduced in a while. But it's just the way they go about it and the way they put it all together on the screen, I think is just strange. And it makes it feel weird. When you're watching, you're like, yeah, this is interesting, but this isn't Chucky. This isn't what this franchise is known for. And it's to the point now where it feels like we're doing random stuff just for the sake of being random. And that's how honestly I can describe a lot of the recent decisions in the franchise. It's just, it's made it tiring to be a fan of this franchise. Because overall, it feels like anything can happen on a dime, just depending on what the plot is asking for at the moment. And it just sucks that I feel this way. I hate to feel this way about a franchise that I love so much. But when you're constantly feeling mixed about what they're putting out, it almost demotivates you from getting too invested into the story, because you know from past experience that they can just write themselves out of any situation that can seem serious, to the point where it just feels like nothing matters or nothing is serious to the story anymore. Like, Don Mancini has done such a good job at killing this guy, to the point now where we've done it so many times, and now, especially in Season 3, we've done it in so many definitive ways. How are we actually going to officially kill Chucky, is my question. Because I feel like this season was probably the best way to do it. I think with the way it was set up and the way it was all put together, this could have been the end of the entire franchise. Because conceptually, I like the idea of what they're doing. I just think that it is executed pretty poorly on most fronts. So, did Chucky Season 3 ruin the franchise? Well, it mostly depends on who you are and what you enjoy from the franchise. Because, like I said before, there is a major split audience. People who really like the over-the-top, campy, goofy side of Chucky, and people who like the grounded, more serious, kind of original vibe that we got from Chucky. So really, it just depends on who you are and what you like, because I've seen plenty of people who really enjoyed all the aspects from this season and loved the way that they presented it and executed everything. The Child's Play franchise was one that defined the killer doll subgenre and terrified audiences, such as when I was younger watching Curse for the first time. There was a sense of stake, tension, and whilst everything was much simpler, I think this franchise is much more widely enjoyed by fans when the concept is treated at least a little serious, and not like an SNL skit. These high-concept ideas are fun and can be enjoyable, but it hurts the franchise by constantly splitting its audience, especially with the last 2 seasons of the TV show. Overall, I love this franchise, and it kills me when I have to leave an entry feeling mixed or just flat out negative. Well, I mean, there's only one time I've been flat out negative. So going forward, I'm hoping that Don Mancini sees that his audience is splitting and takes this new story wherever the fuck we can go from here and try to appeal to both sides. It seems like, at least with season 1, that both major sides of the audience enjoyed it and everyone found something that they really liked about it.